Dementia Researcher with the blogger narrating.
It's time for something that every editor loves, a time-specific blog. I do think this is a very important question to ask, however, because there's a financial situation brewing that could affect everyone in research, regardless of whether they work in an academic institution or an industry. Every year, the world seems like it becomes more and more unhinged. We're seeing conflicts all over the globe and increases in political instabilities. As a result, our government is taking a form of action that it believes will strengthen our position from a financial and defence perspective. Keir Starmer recently committed to increasing our spending on defence by 2.5% of GDP by 2027, and has talked about a desire to create our own Iron Dome, an analogy to the missile defence system in place in Israel that can nullify hundreds of aerial threats at once with a 90% success rate. That's a huge spending commitment, and at a time we're told money is in short supply, and we must focus on sorting out our national debt. This has left many wondering what this means for the world of government-backed research funding. We're already seeing the potential impact on Innovate UK, the main vessel via which companies can apply for government funding. There's very few grant funding initiatives for private limited companies. Innovate UK really is the only one. It's also something that other countries look upon with envy. It's rare to get such great government support for businesses. However, we're yet to receive any comments or commitments of new spending for Innovate UK. Moreover, we've seen the scrapping of the incredibly popular Smart Grant scheme, and right now, it looks like when the current grants expire, we can't expect a whole lot more to come through. The big question now is, will universities observe a similar phenomenon from their go-to funding bodies? Well, let's start with the good news regarding dementia research. A lot of the work done in this space is funded by the absolutely incredible network of charities we have here. We're talking Alzheimer's Research UK, Dementia UK, Race Against Dementia, the Lewy Body Society, Alzheimer's Association. The list really goes on and on. You can find support from most levels of research, if not all, and these organisations are not primarily government funded. They rely on fundraising, donations, and philanthropy. In other words, they're safe from the government cuts, at least in a direct sense. If purse strings tighten, donations may dwindle, making funding pots potentially smaller and or more competitive, but only time will tell. I would suspect the likes of AR UK to continue to provide the game-changing level of support they've always done. However, a lot of other funding bodies could be affected. As government spending priorities shift, we could see a ripple effect on publicly funded research bodies such as the Medical Research Council, or MRC, UK Research and Innovation, UKRI, and the Engineering and Physical Sciences Council, the EPSRC. Let's start with the MRC. They're a major funder of biological research and do something that's very special indeed, the Developmental Pathway Funding Scheme, DPFS, which is one of the few initiatives that can fund clinical studies. The MRC pumps serious cash into research with a focus on trying to translate new therapies to the clinic. They put up £230 million into our UK Dementia Research Institute as a sign to their commitment to dementia research. If we see a tightening of the budget, the MRC isn't going to suddenly disappear, but we might see grant calls becoming increasingly competitive. The EPSRC funds a wide variety of research themes, from AI to robotics to computational research, imaging. They often tie into dementia research through brain imaging, wearable devices, and AI-powered diagnostics and analysis tools. One positive here is that AI is another thing that the government pledged to pump a lot of money into. The Department for Science, Innovation and Technology are constantly hiring new people around things like policy development for AI and medtech. This might make the EPSRC calls more resistant to the financial difficulties, but it all depends on whether we see a sudden shift in interest to AI for national security applications instead. Finally, the UKRI is essentially the parent to the likes of the MRC, EPSRC and Innovate UK. If government research funding remains stagnant or declines, UKRI might reallocate funds to priority sectors, potentially reducing dedicated grants for dementia research. However, this is all conjecture. The simple truth is that we don't know if and how this will affect the funding landscape for dementia research. As the UK adjusts spending priorities, there is a lot of uncertainty, but one thing is for sure, funding initiatives will not just disappear. They could get more competitive, but we will still have access to funding options. I think the government are fully aware that the fight against dementia is a race against time, and sustained investment is crucial to delivering breakthroughs that improve lives. Will they really allow funding challenges to delay the excellent progress we've made in recent years? I guess only time will tell.
Thank you for listening. Join the Dementia Research bloggers and share your own views.